True story. I once said something that could easily have been a Cannibal Corpse lyric in the break room at a minimum wage job and got fired for it. Hi diddly hey, neighborino, it's the Jim, and I got Phil over here, and we are doing a clap back, as I like to do, standing on the shoulders of giants, milking other YouTubers for content. So Julie texted me, you should take the Robert G 305 challenge. I thought she meant I should go to Florida and get punched in the face, and I was like, honey, I can do that at home. Well, she meant because this dude just put out this video just earlier today or yesterday, when you'll be seeing this, I suppose, but that one.
We're back in business, guys, and
yeah, he compares and contrasts the first 5 respective albums of Deicide and Cannibal Corpse and selects a favorite between them, and I thought, well, that is an interesting idea. I like where you're going with that. And also, I probably could stand to get punched in the face, so yeah. Step on up, Robert G. Let's do this. I'll leave teeth in your knuckles. Now, I know that as a person that talks about metal on the YouTube, you're supposed to have some like visual props to demonstrate your trueness. And I'm, to be honest with you, too old, too uninterested in a bunch of consumer culture bullshit, and also to having lived a chaos-ass shit show of a lifestyle with a lot of disasters befalling me, to be interested or capable of having that giant display behind me of like the many various albums I own. But just to demonstrate some of my bona fides, I will really quick give a visual aid as to that I do in fact own physical copies of Cannibal Corpse albums, and also what are we looking at here? You are looking at Deicide. Yeah. So, just to clarify here, I got 4. Yeah. Well, a couple of them are in a different book here, because a couple of them I actually placed a very high premium on. We'll get to that in a second here. Anyway, so if we compare and contrast, and I'm just going to give you the lowdown on my own opinions. If you want to know what Robert G thinks, then watch his video. Highly recommended. For no other reason than just, yeah, it's a good concept. And support your local metal YouTuber if you're in Florida or the United States in general, or speak English or comprehend English. Anyway, so forthwith, self-titled Deicide versus Eaten Back to Life. Now, I gotta opine really quick before I give my opinion. That's actually kind of interesting. I don't feel like it's a huge challenge in just the broader, like, historical scale. Like, self-titled is what most people consider the quintessential Deicide album. When I was pressed, name an album that defines a genre, I was like, oh, well, Deicide is what you would give to someone that didn't know death metal at all, and just be like, that's death metal for you, bro. So I don't think it's entirely unfair to say we should all go with Deicide on that one. But Eaten Back to Life has a real charm, especially in the vocals. There's not another album with vocals quite like that, even by Cannibal Corpse. So that's a really good one, but I'm going with Deicide on that one. Now with the second one, I feel like historically there's been a lot of retcon appreciation for Butchered at Birth. It was probably, I mean, I came a couple years after this, so I can't speak from personal experience on this. I'm sure it laid waste at the moment, but with only a couple of years of hindsight, Tomb of the Mutilated clearly made a much bigger impact than Butchered at Birth. So, whereas conversely, Legion, I think Legion, I just said Deicide is like the quintessential Deicide album for most people. For me, it is definitely Legion, and so I take very little time in saying I'm going to pick Legion over Butchered at Birth. But again, also a fair challenge. Now, the third one's where it starts to get really interesting, because for most people, the quintessential Cannibal Corpse album is Tomb of the Mutilated. I never really liked that one as much. Partially because I just feel like the vocals sounded too much like a Muppet. And also, with hindsight, the quality that I think I hear back now is Tomb of the Mutilated is, for better or for worse, the album where Cannibal first starts to really show glimmers that it's going to go from Cannibal, the band that just put out like two really essential death metal albums, into Cannibal Incorporated. Now that said, Once Upon a Cross is the album where Deicide very much more clearly started to try to get a little more commercial sounding, and Glenn can say what he wants about like the song. It probably actually means it, but I'm sure it didn't bother the people at the label a whole lot. I'm still taking Once Upon a Cross on that one, because I liked Butchered at Birth more than Tomb of the Mutilated. Then, with The Bleeding and Serpents of the Light. Serpents of the Light is, I think, kind of contentious in the Deicide canon, and because people really started to hear what I just described in Once Upon a Cross, and I don't know why Serpents of the Light gets picked on so much for that, when Once Upon a Cross really just opens that gate like wide open. Notwithstanding all that, The Bleeding, so that's the one where I think you really start to hear with Cannibal, like they're turning into a more commercially minded project, getting a little less just in it for the extreme and a little more in it for like the sake of like being a band that is gonna like make records, right, and sell records, etc. But putting that part aside, I do like The Bleeding also more than Tomb of the Mutilated. I feel like for Cannibal, the vocals most stick out on Eaten Back to Life and The Bleeding. Plus, it's so hook-laden, you can almost kind of like listen past a little bit the fact that it's probably consciously more hook-laden. And I'm still picking Deicide on this one, because I really fucking love those first 7 Deicide albums. And I mean, primarily the first 4, and especially the first 2, but the first 7, because it is my contention that I always say about one-man bands, it's a fucking joke, because not only do bands like need to have a certain chemistry, but for like a proper metal thing, they should have a real dissonant chemistry. In a separate video, I was pressed to name just an album that defines a genre, and I just off the top of my head said Deicide, Mayhem, I Hate God. I barely listened to I Hate God, but those 3 stick out to me because those are 3 bands that are pretty much quintessential to their respective genres. 3 bands that cut one album that just sticks out in everyone's mind as like a fucking... I don't know if I Hate God actually, they have a couple. But at any rate, also, primarily, they're 3 bands that just, they don't like each other. And that stops off when the Hoffmans leave Deicide, so that's when I lose interest in them. But we can talk about that in a later video. Because now we're getting to Incinerate Him versus Vile. And to me, that's a really good one, because the answer is supposed to be obvious. Everyone's going to be like, oh, well, Vile, right? I lost interest with Cannibal Corpse at the time of Bloodthirst. I really liked Bloodthirst. And I heard Gore Obsessed once and was like, I think I'm losing interest in death metal. I was concerned about it actually at the time. I was like, oh my god, I'm going to be that person. Well, I was actually just moving from death metal into black metal at that period in my life. But maybe that was one of the albums that helped push me to it. I heard Gore Obsessed and I was like, sounds kind of boring. I should go back and listen to it one more time and see if I still think that. And I'll report back in another video. But for this time, I'm still taking Incinerate Him. Because that one did. At the moment, I was like, god damn. But I listened to it anyways, and I got what I could out of it. Which primarily was Worst Enemy and Refusal of Penance. And then the rest of the album, I think there's one more I like on it, but it's been so long since I've actually listened to it. Now that you can, like, just listen to music on the internet, I primarily just listen to Refusal of Penance or Worst Enemy and don't bother skipping the tracks because it's just all fucking bothers me too. Because a lot of those songs, like, I'll be like, I expect to hear this in the context of the album. So if you're a youngster that listens to death metal songs, just song to song, that's fair. But you should probably, at least with the older ones, just listen to the whole fucking album, all in one fell swoop, because that will actually give you a lot more of the idea of what we were doing when, well, to be fair, I did make a lot of mixtapes out of the death metal, so I mean, I was an early adopter to that style anyways. But, did we get all 5? Yeah, there you go. Under 15 minutes. Good looking, Jim, and good looking, Robert G. Deicide versus Cannibal Corpse. The winner, if you were not keeping track diligently at home with a pen and paper of your own, was Deicide on all accounts, but Cannibal Corpse had strong contenders at slots number 2 and 4. And then I kind of bagged off number 3. I really feel like the vocals just kind of Muppet sounding on Butchered at Birth, on Tomb of the Mutilated. Watch me mix them up. Okay, so that we're clear on this, I really feel like the vocals sound kind of Muppet-like on Tomb of the Mutilated. And I mean, on Butchered at Birth, it's a little bit like just, okay, that's fine, but people used to beg on Ross Dolan for that. He just sounds the same from album to album. Well, he sounded a little like Butchered at Birth Chris Barnes from album to album, and it didn't sustain any better for Barnes for a full album than it did for Ross Dolan for a full album. Or rather, it sustained just fine for both of them, but the vocals are best on Eaten Back to Life and on The Bleeding, and I will die on that hill. Now, quick bonus. We actually, have I got just 1 minute? Cool. We're going to do this in under 15 minutes. But, yeah, I lost interest in Cannibal Corpse, and I think it's because of George. Barnes is better than George, like, just overall. Not just in Cannibal Corpse, but they're both metal as fuck, and I wouldn't necessarily want to, like, get punched in the face by either one of them. But that notwithstanding, Barnes gave his voice to death metal, and George is still doing it at like 70 years old. And that shows that he did not give his voice to death metal. He's just been like giving voice to death metal. And that's a little less fucking metal, in my opinion. The dude from Nile, like, destroyed himself playing drums for Nile, right? Most drummers destroy themselves playing drums for their bands. Well, Barnes did that with his throat, so, yeah. Good for him. And you just spent 15 minutes with Jim Dempsey. Good for you. Anyway, that was more than enough for all of us, I'm sure. I'm a dipping out, but thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time.